My jealous sister tried to ruin my marriage with a fake paternity test, so I let her humiliate herself and watched her husband serve divorce papers. Minnie and I are a year apart in age. She's 31 and I'm 30. Growing up, my sister would often tell me she was jealous of me and that she didn't like me. It always made me really sad, because she was my only sibling, and I loved and admired her deeply. I had always looked up to her and tried to stay close, but she constantly pushed me away. When she was in a good mood, she was an amazing sister, fun, creative, full of life. But whenever we fought, she would say cruel things and sometimes even try to hurt me physically, punching, pushing, or yanking my hair. Our parents would scold her for it, especially since she was older. I tried again and again to show her how much I looked up to her and wanted a close relationship, but she always seemed to hold a grudge against me. Minnie always had a bold and expressive personality. She was passionate about the arts, especially makeup and fashion. She loved experimenting with bold hairstyles and getting tattoos. My mom enrolled me in school early, and eventually, Minnie and I ended up in the same grade, because my teachers said I had advanced academic abilities. Luckily, we were never placed in the same class. Minnie wasn't happy about it and started viewing me as her rival, mostly because I was stronger in academics. But it wasn't like I was top of the class. I just did my homework and put in a little effort, while Minnie hated schoolwork altogether. That made my B's and A's look exceptional in comparison to her usual C's and occasional B's. Her real strengths were in creative areas: art, theater, cooking, sewing, and dance. I, on the other hand, developed a love for the violin thanks to our mom pushing me into it, and I also dabbled in French and Korean. Minnie became a regular in our school's drama department and spent most evenings rehearsing for plays. Things took a dark turn for her when she was kicked out of the drama program after a nasty confrontation with some classmates. It all started when Minnie found out her boyfriend was cheating on her with another girl from the department. In a rage, she attacked the girl and even set her backpack on fire. That incident led to her being asked to leave the school. I still don't know the full story, but I do remember she had to repeat 11th grade. Our parents were furious. They lectured her constantly and grounded her until she turned 18. That situation really damaged her relationship with them, and they stayed disappointed in her for a long time. The longest romantic relationship I've ever had lasted just 6 months, and you know why? Because of my sister. I was never desperate to find the one, but every time I got into a healthy relationship, Minnie would somehow sabotage it. There was one guy in particular I really liked, Derek. We had been dating for about 4 months, and things were getting pretty serious. We were planning to meet each other's parents soon, but the night before we were supposed to take that step, Derek suddenly blocked me. On my phone, on Messenger, on Facebook, everywhere. The only way I could reach him was to show up in person. So I did. When I knocked on Derek's door unannounced, he looked genuinely shocked to see me. I confronted him right there and asked why he had suddenly blocked me. Derek paused, clearly uncomfortable, before admitting that my sister had reached out to him. She had voiced her concerns about me and shared some stories about my so-called past, painting me in a terrible light. I was stunned. I pushed him to tell me exactly what she said. That's when Derek told me Minnie had claimed I had been flirting with other guys during our relationship, and that she caught me sending inappropriate pictures to a male friend. I was horrified. I tried to explain my side, denying all of her claims and telling him they were completely made up. But Derek looked unsure and conflicted. He asked me, "Why would your own sister make up something so serious?" That question broke me. I could feel tears welling up as I explained how Minnie had always been jealous and had a history of interfering in my relationships. I never thought she'd stoop this low, but clearly she had. Still, the damage was done. Even though I tried everything to fix what we had, Derek said he didn't feel comfortable continuing the relationship. He didn't want to deal with someone who had such a problematic sister. I understood where Derek was coming from. Honestly, if I had the choice, I wouldn't want to be related to Minnie either. Heartbroken and angry, I confronted her about what she had done. After a heated argument, she finally admitted that she felt insecure and jealous because I always dated attractive men. She confessed that it was always easy for me to find someone, and she resented me for that. She said she thought I was too good for Derek, so she made up lies to push him away. I was furious. It became crystal clear that all of this stemmed from her own deep-rooted jealousy and unresolved issues. Our parents scolded her and told her how wrong she was, But Minnie didn't care. She got exactly what she wanted. Derek and I were done. That incident marked a major turning point for me. I began to seriously think about putting distance between us. I realized that if I ever wanted to have a healthy, lasting romantic relationship, I couldn't have her around to sabotage it. We had always shared a dream of studying abroad. Minnie actually had a lot of talent and potential, but it seemed like fear or lack of preparation kept her from pursuing it. Instead, she chose to study computer science in our home country, mostly because our dad advised her to. Watching that happen made me realize that I didn't want my future being shaped by my parents' decisions. I worked incredibly hard to earn a scholarship to study overseas. Despite all my efforts, though, financial issues forced me to stay and start college locally. Still, I pursued the major I really wanted. Even after that, the dream of going abroad never left me. I kept searching for scholarships, and eventually, I got one. I finally got the chance to leave and restart my education abroad. My parents were devastated that I was moving so far away. On my last night at home, Minnie apologized for everything she had done to me over the years. I'm not sure why, maybe because she realized I was really leaving, and now she would have our parents all to herself. I didn't want to stir up any more drama, so I accepted her apology and forgave her. Living and studying alone in a new country changed me. I lost some weight, met new people, discovered my sense of style, and gained real confidence. Graduating was a huge accomplishment, but the following year was rough as I struggled to find work. Eventually, I landed a solid job and began building a new life. Back home, Minnie completed her bachelor's degree. She told me she wanted to move abroad for her master's and study in the same country I was living in. I encouraged her and helped her get started. She applied to various universities and scholarships, but unfortunately kept facing rejection. The frustration began to show. She came to visit me once and stayed for 10 days so I could show her around. She could tell I had changed. Whenever she made snide remarks about my clothes or hair, I just ignored her. It felt strange how she tried to dictate what I should wear or how I should act in public if we were going out for lunch. If I invited friends over, she would criticize them and insist I find better people to be around. There were times when I'd be having a great time with my friends, and suddenly she'd get moody for no clear reason. When I brought her to my workplace and gave her a tour of my office, she was visibly shocked by how big and impressive it was. I enthusiastically told her about the opportunities I had been given and how excited I was about where my career was heading. But instead of celebrating with me, she grew quiet and distant. She changed the topic to herself, saying how much she wanted those same experiences and how she regretted some of her past choices. Later, during dinner, she mentioned wanting to extend her vacation and continue living with me, but I knew I couldn't live with her judgment anymore. I gently told her it would be best if she found a different place to stay if she planned on remaining in the city longer. I explained that it was clear she had unresolved issues with me and refused to talk about them. That's when she completely lost it. She started yelling, saying she was fed up with having me in her life, how everyone constantly compared us and made her feel like her accomplishments were never enough. I told her that I had never made those comparisons, and it was always her who made me feel small. Then Minnie lashed out again, saying I wasn't anything special and that she could have done everything I had done if she'd wanted to. Ask her to calm down, but Minnie stormed out of the house without saying another word. I just sat there, stunned but not surprised. The whole exchange made me realize how deeply bitter she still was and how nothing I ever did, no matter how kind, humble, or respectful, was ever enough for her. I didn't even feel guilty. Not anymore. When she told me I was spoiled and that she wished I was never born, those words hit me hard. I couldn't even respond. I got up silently from the table and locked myself in my room. 2 days later, she flew back home without saying a word or offering an apology. The moment she left, I could finally breathe. There was a strange sense of peace. That's when I truly realized how much we had both changed over the years, and how much I had started to dislike her presence. Eventually, I met James, my now husband, who worked in the same industry as I did. We had a lot of mutual friends and kept running into each other at events. One evening, we met at a gathering, had a few drinks, and had a great time talking about work and life. At first, I thought we'd just be friends, but the next day, he asked me out. We started dating and were together for 2 wonderful years before he proposed. I became really close to his family, who lived in the same country as us, and James had already met my parents over video calls. While planning our wedding, I got a job offer from a company in my home country. offering nearly double my current salary. It was a major opportunity, and after discussing it with James, we both agreed that it was worth it. So I took the job and moved back home. That's when my parents finally got to meet James in person, and they loved him. My dad even started spending Sundays golfing with him. My job was going well, and James soon found a new one too. During all this, Minnie kept her distance. She completely avoided me and James. Even when our parents asked her to visit, she always had an excuse. We hadn't spoken in a long time, and while I understood her hesitation, I honestly didn't mind. I was terrified she'd try to sabotage this relationship like she had with others in the past. After a few months of settling in, James and I decided to get married. We flew in his parents and grandparents and planned a small, intimate wedding with only close friends and family. Both of us had demanding jobs, so we also kept the honeymoon short. We chose to get married in the backyard of my parents' house. It was a beautiful, spacious area, and my parents were thrilled to host it. The ceremony was perfect. Our families, grandparents, siblings, and friends all gave heartfelt speeches. Everyone danced, laughed, and ate incredible food. The only one missing was Minnie. She had told us she had a fever and couldn't attend. A week after our honeymoon, I was at my mother's house, showing her wedding photos, when Minnie suddenly showed up. As I was talking about how happy the grandparents had been, Minnie butted in and asked if James and I were having financial issues. I laughed and told her no, that I was actually earning a much better salary now, and James was doing great too. She scoffed and mocked me, saying maybe we were struggling, given that we got married in our parents' backyard. My mom quickly defended me, saying there was nothing wrong with that, and that I wanted a smaller wedding, which made perfect sense. I nodded and explained that James and I weren't into flashy things. Even with our good income, we preferred to spend money wisely. That made Minnie furious. She accused me of showing off and even claimed I was probably lying about my salary. I calmly responded that I had no need to prove anything to her and that we weren't kids anymore. I told her she needed to stop inventing stories about me and grow up. I added that moments like these were exactly why I was relieved she hadn't come to the wedding. That comment pushed her over the edge. She burst into tears, yelled at me, and stormed out. My mother tried to get her to stay and talk, but Minnie wouldn't listen. She just left in a fit of rage. Everything was going well. My mom had organized a beautiful setup, and I was surrounded by supportive friends and loved ones. We laughed, played games, and shared stories. I felt genuinely happy and relaxed for the first time in weeks. But of course, Minnie found a way to stir up drama. She arrived late and immediately started questioning why I didn't want any gifts. She loudly told everyone how strange it was that a baby shower would be held without presents, and hinted that maybe I was just trying to act superior. I ignored her, trying to focus on the positive energy in the room, but she wouldn't stop. She kept trying to bring up baby names, asking everyone what they thought of certain names, even though I had made it very clear I didn't want to discuss that. Eventually, I pulled her aside and told her firmly that she needed to stop. I reminded her that I had set these boundaries from the beginning and asked her to please respect them. She rolled her eyes and accused me of being overly sensitive, saying I was turning into one of those moms who think they know everything. I took a deep breath, reminded myself to stay calm, and told her that this wasn't about knowing everything. It was about creating a space where I could celebrate with people who respected me. Later that evening, after the party had ended and most guests had gone home, Minnie pulled my mom aside and said she felt like I had excluded her from everything. She claimed she just wanted to help and be involved, but that I always pushed her away. My mom gently reminded her that I had every right to set boundaries, especially now that I was becoming a mother. She told Minnie that if she truly wanted to be a part of my life, she needed to support me without constantly trying to take control. Minnie didn't respond. She just quietly left. Since then, I've kept my distance. I no longer chase her approval or try to fix things between us. I've come to accept that some relationships, no matter how deep or complicated, can be more toxic than healing, and I've chosen peace over chaos. James and I are excited for our next chapter, and I want to raise my child in a home filled with love, calm, and mutual respect, not tension and resentment. As for Minnie, I still wish her well, but I no longer let her pain define my happiness. I was pleasantly surprised to see that my mother had invited only my closest friends to the baby shower. just the way I wanted. There were non-alcoholic drinks for everyone, and the mood was light and cheerful. I was having a wonderful time catching up with old friends when Minnie walked in, wearing a shirt that read, "Godmother-to-be." My eyes widened in shock. There was absolutely no way I would ever consider her as my baby's godmother. It got awkward fast. Minnie kept going around the room telling everyone how she had always dreamed of being a godmother. What bothered me most was that she never even brought it up with me. She just declared it without any conversation or consent. Later in the afternoon, my mother invited my husband, my father, and Larry to join us, since we were about to cut the cake and find out the baby's gender. As James and I sliced into the cake together, we were both overjoyed to discover we were having a baby boy. Tears welled up in my eyes, and my friends all came over to hug me. But then, Minnie suddenly stood up and announced that she had something very important to say. Everyone went quiet and turned toward her with curiosity. Looking somber, she pulled out a piece of paper and held it up in front of the crowd. Then, with a straight face, she declared that I had recently taken a paternity test, and that the results revealed James was not the father of my baby. The room froze. James turned toward me, clearly shaken, and asked if any of what she was saying was true. I just stood there in shock, speechless, as all eyes landed on me. I shook my head, then looked at Minnie, demanding an explanation. My mom, without hesitation, grabbed the paper from Minnie's hand and examined it. She immediately pointed out that the mother's name on the document wasn't even mine. That's when Minnie burst out laughing. My friends looked at each other, confused, while Minnie, smirking, revealed that she had downloaded a fake paternity test from the internet as part of an elaborate stunt. She said she did it to prove a point, that James was abusive and I was too blind to see it. The entire room was stunned. I asked her if she had completely lost her mind. James had never even raised his voice to me, let alone shown any signs of abuse. But she doubled down, saying that no man would be okay with his partner earning more money, and that James must be controlling me behind the scenes. She rambled off a few bizarre, baseless examples, and insisted that James's anger at her announcement was proof enough. I snapped. I shouted that the reason James was furious was because she publicly humiliated me and tried to make people believe our baby wasn't his. I told her he wasn't controlling, abusive, or insecure, and that she was clearly projecting her own issues onto my marriage. Minnie's face turned red with embarrassment. I didn't stop there. I let it all out. I told her I was sick of her being jealous of me for my entire life, and how disgusting it was that she would sabotage something as sacred as a baby shower. I told everyone in the room how she had sabotaged my past relationships, lied about me to my exes, and constantly tried to make everything about herself. Minnie stood there humiliated. My mother backed me up, telling her she had gone way too far this time. Out of nowhere, Larry, who had been silent through all of this, stood up. The room was dead quiet as he walked over to Minnie and handed her a folder. The atmosphere shifted instantly from awkward tension to outright shock. Guests began murmuring as Minnie opened the folder. Larry, with a cold tone, told her that their marriage counseling clearly wasn't working. He had realized they were toxic together and had planned to give her divorce papers that evening. But after witnessing her stunt, he couldn't go back home with her. He told her he was done with her drama and walked out of the baby shower. The room was completely still. The guests looked at one another, unsure of what to say or do. Minnie just stood there, silent and stunned, holding the divorce papers in her hand. Her attempt to hijack the baby shower had completely backfired. Instead of humiliating me, she ended up facing the collapse of her own marriage. The joyful celebration had turned into a room thick with silence and disbelief. And the joyous occasion had turned into a somber affair as the weight of everything that had happened began to settle in. I knew then that I was done with the drama. I turned to James and quietly asked him to take me home. He agreed without hesitation. I hugged my mother goodbye, and she assured me she would call later to check in. Minnie tried to approach me, possibly to apologize, but I didn't even look at her. Since that day, my mind has been racing. As you can imagine, everyone was left stunned. I've received countless messages and phone calls from friends and family asking if I'm okay. Some told me that after I left, Minnie broke down crying and that my parents kicked her out of the house, refusing to hear any more of her nonsense. I can't help but feel a little sorry for her. She's lost me, our parents, and her husband. Still, I also feel a twinge of guilt for yelling at her the way I did. At the time, It felt justified, but I keep wondering, was I in the wrong for calling her out in front of everyone, especially after she humiliated me with a fake paternity test? First, I want to thank every single one of you who took the time to read and respond to my story. The outpouring of empathy, support, and advice over the past week has been overwhelming. I'm genuinely moved by the kindness and shared experiences that so many of you have offered. This was my first time posting on Reddit, and I did it because I felt like I needed an outside perspective after everything that happened with my sister. Many of you are right. What Minnie did was not only bizarre but deeply troubling. I agree with the comments suggesting she may need professional help. I also know I need to sit down with my parents and discuss cutting her off permanently. I can't afford to have this kind of chaos around my baby. Hi again. It's been a month since my last update. I had that long overdue conversation with my parents. We all agreed that, for the sake of our mental and emotional well-being, we need to cut Minnie out of our lives. She has shown no remorse. In fact, she's gone around telling people that I overreacted and made a big deal out of what she calls a prank. She even blames me for ruining her marriage by bringing up her past in front of Larry. Surprisingly, Larry reached out to my parents and apologized for how he used to treat Minnie. He confessed that the reason he'd kick her out during fights wasn't because he was abusive, but because she would physically assault him, punching and even kicking him in the face. He said he felt unsafe around her. That was a shock to all of us, as we had always assumed he was the problematic one. But then he showed us photos of a broken nose, a black eye. It was horrifying. Honestly, it's lucky he didn't go to the police. Minnie could have ended up in jail. Clearly their relationship was toxic, and I'm honestly relieved they're divorcing. My parents have since had a serious conversation with Minnie. They told her, in no uncertain terms, that she's no longer welcome at their house. Or mine. She started crying and tried her usual emotional tactics, but my mother was done. She told Minnie that if she ever came near me or my baby again, they'd file a restraining order. They insisted she see a psychiatrist, but Minnie refused, claiming everyone was being unfair and that they always favored me. Well, I've blocked her everywhere. James has too. We've even installed security cameras around our home, and if she ever shows up, we won't hesitate to call the police. It's been 8 months since my last update, and I'm so happy to share that I've given birth to a beautiful baby boy. We named him Alex. The pregnancy had its difficult moments, but seeing his face for the first time made it all worth it. I can't believe I'm finally a mom. Our home is now filled with the soft cries and sweet giggles of our little one. James and I are learning how to be parents. It's exhausting and exhilarating at the same time, and we're soaking up every second of it. My parents have been by our side every day, helping us through this life-changing transition. James's parents are flying in next month to meet their grandson. As for Minnie, she hasn't contacted us at all. The last I heard, she and Larry finalized their divorce, and she moved to a new city. Maybe she's trying to start over. I do feel a pang of sadness that she's not here to share this milestone with me, but as a mother, my priority now is protecting my child from chaos, from drama, and from anything that might threaten our peace.